Historic Steamships, Part 3 of 3, Family Connections. Hi, I'm Vince and welcome to the Vince Unlimited YouTube channel and to the third and final episode of my mini-series on historic steamships. If you haven't seen the first two episodes, you might like to check them out using the links in the description below. Maybe subscribe to the channel where you can enjoy all my Vince Unlimited content. In this episode, I shall chart my own family connections, which include stories about similarly aged steamships to the ones seen in the photographs in part 1 and indeed 2. I also lay out reasoning on who took all the photos. The story started when I was recently helping my father clear his home, and I came across some old family documents and photographs which he himself had inherited from his own parents. Amongst these treasures was a large foolscap sized accounting book which contained some handwritten accounts dated between 1824 and 1829. Plus, oddly, had some unrelated large old black and white photographs of early steamships, some glued into and some loose in the back. The sort of steam-powered vessels constructed with sail masts in case the power system failed, as could happen on early steamships. No notes were written on or with the photographs of these substantial ships, which were located in a docks area, probably in Southampton. Many were obviously taken during the Second Boer War era, around 1899. This is evidenced by the painted numbers on the sides of the ships, which aided me greatly in their identification and dating. This time coincided with the fact that my paternal great-great-grandfather, Henry Poynter, worked at the Southampton docks as a police constable. I've seen evidence of documentation that put him there at least between 1895 and 1903. So he would have had access to photograph these mighty vessels from advantageous vantage points. So credit for these pictures should probably go to Henry Poynter. This photograph of Henry in his police uniform was probably taken around 1900, deduced from the documents I have seen. He would have been in his 40s at the time. Earlier in his life, when he was in his late teens, he had served in the Coldstream Guards. I've even seen his old army book showing his enlistment in March 1875. However, as I have no certain proof that it was Henry who took the pictures, I should also consider it may have been another member of the family. Maybe Henry's son, Harry Poynter, my paternal great-grandfather. Harry would have been in his 20s around the beginning of the 20th century and may have had dockside access granted by his father. The next image shows Harry stood over his family. It also shows my great-grandmother, Florence Gertrude, with their children, Dorothy and William. William being my paternal grandfather. The children's age dates the photo to around 1911. Harry and Florence later had another son, Charles, but Florence sadly died during that childbirth at the age of just 29. Other possibilities include that another unknown member of the family took the photographs. Or maybe they were just acquired and collated for a small private home collection originally taken by others. Please comment below if you have further information on any of the ship photos, as I'm operating under the assumption they are single print originals. Now, I would like to take this chance to honour two other members of my family whose stories are tightly linked to shipping at the turn of the 20th century and the Second Boer War. My paternal great-grandmother, Florence, mentioned a moment ago, was born Florence Shearman, and she had just two siblings, her older brothers, Harry and William. Both Harry and William probably sailed together as they both went to South Africa with the Durham Light Infantry to play their part in the Second Boer War, which had kicked off in November 1899. In all likelihood, they were part of the intended relief of Ladysmith in the Natal area, where 13,000 British forces had repelled a 21,000 strong Boer attack and had endured a consequent siege there. The brothers travelled to Cape Town in the single-funnelled 7,396 gross ton HM troop ship SS Assaye. Yes, the same one mentioned in part 1 of this mini-series, which had collided with the USS MS New York in thick fog in 1904. As I didn't have a photograph of the actual Assaye, I decided to draw a picture of it, from memory. That is, the memory of a photograph of SS Assaye, which I recently discovered on the internet. Assaye had started life in 1899, being constructed by Caird & Company, Scotland, for the Peninsular and Oriental Steam Navigation Company. It launched in October 1899, intended to act as a commercial transport service. The Second Boer War put an end to that, idea, and the vessel was commissioned as troop transport immediately. This was a service the ship seemed to be destined to perform its whole life. For instance, it was also used between 1903 and 1908 for various other troop transport duties. And when not a troop ship, the Assaye remained laid up in Southampton, awaiting similar roles. SS Assaye's first commercial work came in 1908 between Bombay, now Mumbai, and the Far East, before being hired again by the Admiralty as a troop and hospital ship for First World War use in 1914. Then the steamship continued in similar roles until eventually being scrapped in Stavanger, Norway in 1928. Back to my family's connection to the Assaye, and we pick up the story on 1st of March 1900. On this day, the ship left Southampton with 2,083 troops on board, which included 150 men of the Durham Light Infantry, including the two brothers. It disembarked them at Cape Town, South Africa on the 21st of the month. Some complications with illness, possibly started during the voyage on the Assaye, rendered both brothers sick. Note that sickness was not that uncommon on these troop ships at that time. However, Harry was so much affected that by 7th of April it had already begun transferred back onto a returning hospital ship, the SS Nubia, which was heading back to Southampton. Again, the picture here is a representation of what the SS Nubia would have looked like at the time, based only on modern historical records lying around the surface of the world. Credit for the drawing should be given to me because that's who drew it. The hospital ship, the SS Nubia, originally called SS Singapore, was a £100,000, 430 feet long passenger cargo ship of 5,914 tonnes. It was launched in 1894 after being built at Caird and Company, Greenock, Scotland. It was completed in 1895 for the Peninsula and Oriental Steam Navigation Company, later to become P&O. The ship could travel at 14.5 knots from its three-cylinder triple expansion steam engine with 662 nautical horsepower. The maiden voyage took the ship towards Calcutta, but it ran aground in Fukham Bay at Off Aden, Yemen. Nubia was deployed between 1899 and 1903, transporting and treating patients during the Second Boer War. The ship eventually ended its life, wrecked in 1915, while heading from Bombay to Shanghai in the Bay of Bengal, less than a kilometre north of Colombo, Ceylon, now Sri Lanka. Harry's time with the SS Nubia in April 1900 was lamentably short. Unfortunately, he never made the journey back home and died on board. So subsequently buried at sea off the west coast of Africa, just a day before the ship docked in Las Palmas in the Canary Islands. Then, tragically, less than a month later, Harry's younger brother William also died, this time on land in South Africa. He died from enteric fever, of which typhoid is a form, and was buried at Estcourt, a place described at the time as a collection of about 300 detached stone or corrugated iron houses, nearly all one-storied, arranged along two broad streets. As you can tell from my quite excellent impersonation, that was quoting a contemporaneous report according to Winston Churchill, who was based there as a war correspondent in 1899. These men, Harry and William, but not Churchill, were the only two siblings of my great-grandmother Florence. Therefore, my paternal family are the only ones now left with personal connections. Of course, as war wounded, their names shall remain in records and have also been inscribed on the Durham Cathedral Boer War Memorial Cross. William, unfortunately spelled as William Shearman, and his brother Harry added as a postscript, out of alphabetical order, near the base and so now quite worn. I presume because the records didn't originally record Harry as a casualty of the war, having been immediately transferred back on board towards home before seeing any actual action. They do have a personal headstone though, which was probably erected by the family around 1900, as deduced from the reference to the Queen on this inscription, who would have been Queen Victoria, who died in 1901. Given the condition of the stone in the photograph, it was probably taken soon after placement. Do not know where it's situated, but suspect it's in the Southampton area. The supplier's mark seems to show Mappin, Winchester, but I cannot determine further information about this or a similar name. If you've seen this memorial stone and remember where you saw it, please let me know so I can make a visit. So that's my family's personal connections to shipping at the turn of the 20th century. I hope you all enjoyed the ship stories in all 3 parts of this series. And if you did, why not subscribe to my channel for more great Vince Unlimited content? And please, add a like to this video for good measure. In researching this series, I gathered information from a number of online sources, including angloboerwar.com, bncstaffregister.com, clydeships.co.uk, greatships.net, norwayheritage.com, queensroyalsurrey.org.uk, rollofhonour.com, uboat.net, en.wikipedia.org, and rexite.eu. The photographs of all these series were from my family collection, and the drawings were created by me on my iPad Air 4th generation. This was also the tool I used to construct this video, using titles generated in the Keynote app, overlaying the original footage filmed on my iPhone 10. I wrote and narrated this true storyline, which I first posted in my Vince Unlimited WordPress article dated 17th of October 2021. This has been a film by Vince, copyright 2022. Thank you very much for watching, and see you in another video.